Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Expendable Show. I'm your host, the Expendable. So, this is a very, very important topic we're going to cover today. And I am here with Poornima, and she is the mother of Suchir Balaji, the OpenAI whistleblower. Um, we have been covering, for those of you that have been watching the show for a while, we've been covering every aspect of this case. And this is not the first time that Poornima has been on my show. As you know, she's been on before. We have breaking news with this case, a major development that is very important that we highlight today. And so I want to first thank you for coming back on, Poornima, and talking about what you've discovered, and we're going to map it all out, and hopefully it makes sense to everybody.
Thank you for bringing me over here, and we can share the updates to the viewers.
Very well. That's the plan. That's what we're going
Yes.
to do today. We're going to bring some awareness. We're going to bring some breaking news, and we're gonna describe everything that's going on, so that way everybody understands. Um, can develop their own, uh, ideals as to what may have happened. I know what I think happened. You know what you think happened. So, and we're on the same page. So hopefully we can get everybody else on that same page. So first, let's go through the chain of events from the beginning. So, Poornima, you're got to stop me if I get something wrong, or if you
Sure.
want to add something, please jump in and add. So Suchir was found November 26th in his apartment in San Francisco. Um, from at the time when you were there, it was an unknown reason. You didn't know why, and kind of describe what happened um, that day that you were found to that he was unalived.
Suchi wasn't responding at all. 7:12 he spoke to dad, and that afternoon he texted me around 4:54 p.m. 12:15 on Saturday, 24th. When I called him, it rang twice and went to voicemail. At that moment, I wasn't worried because I thought he's busy with his friends. He generally, if he misses my call, he'll always call back. That day he didn't do. But since he came back from vacation, I thought maybe he's tired and he slept early. Next morning, again, around 11 onwards, I kept calling, kept sending emails, kept calling, texting, no response at all. Then, out of concern, I went on Monday morning to his apartment, knocked on the door, called him, waited there, texted him, no response. Then I thought, how would you think something like that can happen? I thought maybe he's not home. Where can he go? He may be at the co working space. I drove home, which is an hour, and around 12 or something, I felt really restless. I called a dispatch and I told them my son is not responding. Can you do a wellness check? Around 3:30 or 4:30, police have gone there with the fire engine, and they didn't inform me immediately. At 5:30 I followed up. They said, if you are there, we can open the door. If you are not there, we cannot open the door. That's very strange because they do. Fire department does open the door to save people's life. In this case, we are waiting for the body camera of the police. If they had already known that he was not there, he was not alive, so they wanted me to take responsibility for his body. And next day, I filed a missing person complaint in university where we live. And after that, I called dispatch and went to office at San Francisco to his apartment. I waited there for 3 hours and then I learned that he was no more.
Okay, so to backtrack a little bit from there, so this was in November after Thanksgiving. So we're at November 26th, November 27th in that range. So if we go back just 1 month into October, that was when Suchir went to the New York Times to officially whistleblow on OpenAI, correct?
Yes, and he also published an article that even mathematically proves it's more of a research paper that can tell it. He explained it in a common man's terms, and even for me, I don't know AI, but still I can understand what he's written there. He exposed the whole copyright issues of the entire AI industry. In the New York Times, it's specifically OpenAI. He targeted OpenAI, but how can someone think a 26-year-old making statement that can cause him death? We were alarmed. But we thought more like he won't get another job or something. Suchir kept assuring us that I'm having plans of starting my own company. I'm not dependent on any employer.
Right. So for Suchir was really going out on a limb to whistleblow. He didn't have anything to gain from it. Nobody was offering him money to do these things. He saw something he said was, this isn't, I don't agree with this. OpenAI is doing something wrong and illegal, and I can't be part of it. And
That's
so he
right.
did the right thing, and he went to the New York Times.
Right.
Um, and then a month later, Suchir was found dead in his apartment. So to me, that's the first red flag that I see when I look at this case. I'm like, well, the timeline, these things happen so quick. So you have this event, and then there was a reaction very quickly. So I don't. Were there any death threats to Suchir during that time that you know of?
Like there was no death threat, but when he came home on October 30th, I saw he was afraid. He was under some kind of pressure. But when I
Okay.
asked him, he said, I haven't slept well, I'm tired. And then hike also he came early and then he left. Next 2, 3 days I followed with him. I have the text messages. Are you sleeping well? Yeah, yeah, I'm sleeping well. Are you eating? What are your hobbies? And then I also did a FaceTime video. Then a week later, he came home. He looked perfectly all right. That took my alarms away. And what we found recently is Sam Altman is proposing a bill in the Senate. This bill is to make the copyright legal. The reason he's giving is OpenAI has NSA's data. So he want to be able to use NSA's data to make copyright legit. And what I'm linking here is Suchir opposed copyright and he was going to go as a witness. It's not just a New York Times interview. He was going to go as a custodian witness, which was named on November 18th. And November 21st, OpenAI deleted the staged copyright data given for discovery. They deleted the evidence. Who else? Okay, somebody else who would say no, even though the data is deleted, somebody else who could say copyright was violated was Suchir.
Right.
Silencing
So
him.
yeah. So just to add to that, so this is a blatant Sam Altman. So every listener understands Sam Altman has a history of illegal activity in his businesses. And so to hear this, it doesn't surprise me at all. Um, he knows exactly what he needs to do to make OpenAI a very, very big company. And so he was trying to cut corners to make that happen. And he knew that legislation was going to get in the way. And that's when Suchir stepped in and screwed his whole plan up. And he was just going to walk into this massive. His plan was to walk into this massive amount of money to develop OpenAI into the largest AI system on the planet. And Suchir screwed that up for him because Suchir found all the illegal things that he was doing. And that's why I believe that this has all happened. Now, to go, the autopsy was done. So Suchir was found November 26th. The autopsy was done on the 27th of the same month. So they had the autopsy done pretty quickly. In December, the toxicology was ordered and conducted. So there you have a little bit of time there where they finally got into the toxicology part of it. So we do have the toxicology report, and I'm not going to put it up on the screen, but we're going to read through some of the information. So Suchir's blood alcohol content was found to be 0.178. So those of you that are drinkers out there know that that's well over the legal limit. And generally, you are going to show signs of impairment. Uh, I'm going to be probably bouncing off all the walls on my way back to my house. So that you're going to see visually of that impairment. So now we do have a video of Suchir coming back from his camping trip, and he's walking to the elevator. And so what we see there is a perfectly healthy young man carrying his gear in a big old backpack. And I've looked at this. I've looked at this video 100 times. I do not see any signs that Suchir was impaired. He's walking very fluid. He doesn't stumble or anything. He's not having the head movements. Every sign that you would think somebody who's impaired would have, Suchir shows none of those signs. He looks very fluid. He just looks like an average everyday person moving around trying to get back to his apartment. What do you think about that, Poornima, as well?
Sushir is a social drinker. Like me. Like it takes little wine or beer, nothing more than that. For people who are social drinkers who are not accustomed to drinking, can they even keep taking so much like 7 cups, 8 cups, 7 servings, 8 servings, and all that? And there is also GHB found in the toxicology report. Combination of GHB and toxic and blood alcohol level, they can be a sedative and they can be lethal. And with all those things, like the angle in which the fatal shot is fired is downwards, and it's extremely difficult pose to get. With the impairment, how can he even get that?
That yeah, you're absolutely right. And so that's what Poornima just shared is in fact part of the toxicology report. So they found sedative in his bloodstream. So when you mix that sedative with the alcohol, it's going to enhance the effect. And most people that are drinkers that also take medications, there's a reason why your doctor tells you don't drink while you're on these medications because it enhances the negative effects of them. This is no different. So when you have alcohol and you have a sedative involved, you mix them, it enhances either one, the other, or both. So when you're looking at this specific sedative, he had ephedrine and uh, he had ADHD medications, so amphetamines, but he had the correct kind of dosage of what a normal ADHD person would have. But the norepinephrine is what is the one that did it, and it's weird that that was put in his that he had that in his bloodstream. Did he have a prescription that you know of for that?
I wasn't aware, but I found out that he was taking Adderall. Many people, our attorney informed us, many people take it to have high level of concentration. If they want to work extended long hours,
Right,
then they take Adderall. This generation,
right,
Gen Z.
right. Which that part of it makes sense. Suchir was obviously a very hard worker and probably did not get a proper amount of sleep. Uh,
Yes.
so that makes sense. It's a college kid trick that they've been using since the beginning of time. They take the ADHD
Yeah.
meds to stay awake so they can study and work. So that's there's nothing suspicious about that. I don't think that's normal young person behavior.
Yeah.
Um, but the sedative, did he have sedatives? Like, is that something that he had?
Until he was on my medical insurance, even Adderall was not there. That was until he
Okay,
was 21, right? Until he joined
right.
OpenAI, had his own medical insurance. He was on my medical insurance plan. I haven't seen him having any such issues at all. He was
Okay, so
actually opposite. His concentration and all was extremely high focus since he was an infant.
right. So for me, when I'm thinking about this, I have a son that's very gifted, and
Oh,
I've seen him go through some of these same study patterns, and he's always chasing the next brilliant thing, and so I don't see in that type of behavior where they're going to utilize a lot of you know risky drug use
yeah.
or something that's potentially going to kill them. So it doesn't make any sense to me. They'll do the ADHD medications to so they can continue their work. But anything more strenuous than that, I just don't see that as the behavior consistent with someone of Suchir's caliber. Uh, so that part of it didn't make any sense as to why he would voluntarily do that to himself.
Right.
So the radiology report, that is the important one that I want to talk about because this is where the big news comes from. And this was a secondary opinion, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
When we received the CT scan from the OCME, medical examiner never even bothered to open the CT scanner, look at it. And then when we got it, we sent it to three radiologists. And all the three of them
right,
came up with the opinion that there was a second gun, there's a second gunshot, one from the mouth and one from the forehead. And the
right.
first fatal gunshot was in the mouth. Corresponding to that, there are blood spatters and wounds in the mouth and back of the throat and the tongue. And after that, there was a fatal shot. He isn't moved after the fatal shot. He was unconscious immediately. The blood spatters
Right.
found in the apartment, especially the one on the door, one outside the bathroom, is from the first non-fatal gunshot.
So let's talk about the credentials. So Dr. Cousins is from the Red Surety Radiology Center in Florida, Weston, Florida.
Yes,
This guy's legit. He's a Harvard grad. Uh, he's got all the credentials you could possibly need for radiology. He's from a
exactly.
well-respected institution. This guy is not just somebody that's a sham that well you can just pay and he'll give you the results that you want. This is a very detailed report that's very well done. So when I saw this, Poornima, I'm not going to lie. When I started reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, I about fell out of my chair. This report changes this whole case. So it goes from having doubt to having uh, a surety as to what happened.
Exactly.
So when we look at this first diagram here that we're looking at of the second, this is what I'm going to call the second bullet because this was the original bullet that killed him. However, my theory now is that this is the second bullet. So you see the angle, it comes in like right around the eyes, and it goes to a downward angle to sever the spinal cord, which is what killed him. So when you're looking at this, just like I've talked on my show before, we've tried to reenact this on my show to show how awkward it would be to shoot yourself from this angle. You would have to hold the gun up above your head like this, and it's just really awkward to do that. It doesn't make sense. A normal person is not gonna, come all the way up here to shoot themselves. It's gonna come from here, here, here. So
Ex-
it's
Right, right. And that too, like it was a point blank gunshot, means it was touching. So that means he has to balance it like this to go downwards. And
right,
being
right.
so intoxicated, how can he get that angle?
Yeah,
More importantly,
everything. Yeah, everything about that angle makes no sense, and it doesn't add up.
more importantly, there is blood spatter from the forehead wound on the sink on the right hand side. But on his hands that was holding the gun, there's no blood spatter at all. There's DNA on the gun. There is GSR on the gun, no blood spatter. And to me, it looks like somebody was holding his gun and making him press, so there was no blood spatter on the hand.
Now that's a huge viable uh, theory. I do believe that is how that went down.
Yeah,
So there should have been there should have been blood spatter back towards the gun. And just like what you said, that was not found to be the case. That Suchir had no blood on his hands,
right.
which that at that close point blank range, he would have had blood all over him.
And another important point is the gun case, the spent casing was intact in the chamber. That
I
is
did not know
also,
that.
that's very unlikely. And next time, when the police shot that for doing ballistic testing, it was ejected easily. Why in this particular case? It was not having any mechanical problem. In this particular case, it adds up to the theory was someone was holding like this and they released it very quickly. So the casing did not get ejected.
Wow. I did not know that. That's a really significant piece of information. So here is the actual scans over here of of the trajectory of the bullet. So it does match up. So this is exact. This is the exact angle. So this is a more of a downward angle than what I had initially thought. So this would
Yeah.
be he would have had to do more. He would have had to hold that gun a lot higher and at an angle. I can't even do it without my forearm cramping.
So this
It
OCME, medical examiner's office, they have changed the angle a little bit to make it look like more suicide.
right.
They
And
changed the angle.
you can clearly see in this diagram of the angle of the exit and where it entered. The entry, yeah, it's a very, very deep angle that
It is.
doesn't quite add up. Now, here is the kicker and the game changer. So right here on the right diagram, we have the second bullet, which I say is the first bullet.
You're
So
right.
it's circled in green. This is something that did not get released. I had no idea there was a second bullet, and you found this out when?
Yeah.
Did you find out when you received this report on? I think they have it dated March 10th on this report.
Yeah, that's when we came to know there was a second bullet, and also two other doctors have given an opinion on this. But still, we went on getting the written report only from Dr. Cousin because of his accreditations and his credentials are
Right.
very, very high.
That was a very good idea. He did a fantastic job on this report. Um,
Toxicologist too. He's highly qualified. He's the chief toxicologist of another state. We know our enemy is quite powerful. They'll try to suppress every piece of evidence we have.
right.
We've been going very methodically.
And to get this case out of the state of California, I think is important too. And this guy's based out of Florida, so he didn't have any real ties to
Exactly.
California to be corrupted.
Right.
I think it was a great idea. It was a brilliant idea to have him look at this with his credentials and the thoroughness of the work that he did. So let's go back to this second bullet. So this is where, when you compare the second bullet to the crime scene,
Mhm.
so there was like a coughing spatter in several places. And at first, when I first started looking at when you had George Webb go through and he talked about the the strike to the back of the head in the bathroom, I thought, well, that could cause the coughing spatter, but not every. You would have had to really really hit somebody very very hard to cause them to start coughing blood from
Right.
a blow to the back of the head. Um, but
Even
now it's
then,
go ahead.
even then, so no matter how the injury was, this injury is not connected to the fatal shot.
Right,
That
right,
means there has been an assault on him. That means it's not a suicide.
right. Yeah, I think I think it's very very clear. Like going back to the coughing spatter. Now that we know there's a second bullet and that the barrel of the gun was most likely put in his mouth, and it didn't penetrate, as we see in the diagram. It stuck in the skull wall and never made it through, and it never penetrated into the brain. So that's why he was coughing blood. It was bleeding from that spot, and he was coughing. Suchir was coughing the blood out.
Yes.
So that put a huge piece of the puzzle together for me. And
We also
then,
have the autopsy pictures with the deep wounds inside the throat where it's stuck. And there is a hole in the tongue. There are abrasions on the right side. Right side cheekbone is broken. There are wounds inside the mouth like this. There are wounds on the tongue. It's very
so
brutal.
it broke bones in his face, but didn't necessarily penetrate into the brain. So Suchir was definitely alive at that point.
He
So this
was.
is where I think that the potential gunman realized, oh, I didn't kill him. So now, this kid's on the ground, Suchir's on the ground, and he's coughing blood everywhere. And now he's got to take this angle, which if you're standing over the top of someone, the angle that we see in the diagrams on the left match an execution style
Yeah.
shooting trajectory. So I think he had that. The second shot is the one on the left. That's what killed him, because the first shot, the one on the right, did not kill him. So
Right.
he had to shoot twice.
They
And
might have been
as to how, go ahead.
they might have been very well in the apartment when I called him on 24th the Saturday, 23rd the Saturday. They might have been very well because it rang twice and it was silenced. Since he did not die easily, they might have waited few hours to make sure he's dead.
Right. I mean, that would make sure that would make sense. Um, and then they had time to kind of doctor up his bloodstream as well.
Yeah,
So I think there was the shooter was probably in the apartment for quite some time after the fact.
I think
He
so.
I think he was very careful to not touch anything. But I do want to bring up the wig. So you found the wig. Now go ahead and explain the wig.
It doesn't seem to be a wig actually. When we
Oh,
saw the position of the body, Suchir's head was lying down there. What we believe is there is some kind of injury on the left side of the head that made the hair come off. The assault was so severe, probably. So it could be his own blood. And what we thought to be the band there is some kind of like bubbles coming out of his blood. That bubble can happen in two scenarios. One is if he's breathing long time, then there can be bubble in the blood. Other one is toxicity. In Suchi's case, since he was shot immediately, and there's no question of him breathing too long. It's the toxins. That means the toxicology report, alcohol and a drug that made him
good.
get that. So, in fact, like it was very difficult for us to go touch it and see what it is. When we got the crime scene investigator, he was able to take it. He took it to the lab and then analyzed all the pieces, and then he came to us with that information.
Okay, so I mean that does kind of make sense now. I was trying to figure out um that whole wig thing, but now we know it's not a wig. So, but it did show the bubbling of the blood, which is consistent with generally toxicology. So
Yeah.
that that does make sense. So when we go back to the timeline before this radiology report came out from Dr. Cousins, San Francisco medical examiner ruled it a suicide about a month before that, and it was actually on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Well,
So,
San Francisco medical examiner, I can give you the timestamp of the video of the BWC body worn camera. They came inside. We can see in the video, they go inside the bathroom, they analyzed all the situation. They took 6 minutes to come out, and the investigator, he just showed like this, he shot himself, that's it. And then, right after, the police officer, he goes and touches everything bare hands, and he already contaminates the scene. And the next day, what the OCME medical examiner's office did was they did not do any autopsy. They just took the CT scan, they removed the bullet. They didn't even take the photographs of the inside mouth. There's some protocol. They haven't followed that. They just released the body. And even though they had the toxicology report on December 27th, they waited 2 months to release the report. Wasn't it enough for them? That is the reason there is one line in the autopsy report that says if you find anything else, let us know, because they know already, they've covered it up. And
right,
our attorney, unfortunately, is either incompetent or compromised. He doesn't want to go to OCME and then make it change. We are hiring somebody else to do that for medical malpractice or medical negligence.
right, and rightfully so. They obviously missed the second bullet, um, and we're not seeing that in their report. Um, so the San Francisco Police Department ruled it a suicide the very next day after the medical examiner. So that tells me that they weren't gonna make any determinations without the medical examiner. They basically went off of the medical examiner's report to make
Yes.
their determination. Because like you said, they spent just a few
That's the
minutes inside
protocol.
Suchir's.
So initially, the officers who came, they saw the possibility of both homicide and suicide. They weren't determined at that point of time. The next day, November 27th, I called the police. They said, "Ma'am, unless the medical examiner tells this a foul play, we cannot take homicide investigation." But what we did was we hired an attorney, and through that attorney, we wrote to chief of police, we wrote to chief medical examiner, city administrator, and the executive director of medical examiner's office. And we told them, look, this is a whistleblower case. Look how happy he is. He just came back from vacation. All these happy
Right.
pictures. He celebrated his birthday. What can go wrong within few hours? And they did open the case. In their investigation, they say they verified there was a DNA of Suchi's DNA on the gun and the GSR on both the hands, and that's it. But they didn't take into account the complete scenario, why there are blood spatters outside and why there is no spatter of blood on both the hands. So even they
Yeah,
were incompetent.
right. That they should have looked into this further. So I did reach out to the San Francisco medical examiner for a comment before they made their announcement, and they did not respond. However, I did the same thing with the San Francisco Police Department, and their HR people did reach out to me and attached probably 20 different people to the email, and
Mhm.
they stated it's an open investigation and they can't comment on it at this time.
Right.
So uh, I do appreciate that they commented, that they at least got back with me on it. Um, However, the amount of people that were attached to the email makes me think that, hey, we need to watch out for this guy. So that I don't really worry about San Francisco all that much, but they're very dirty. We know that they're very dirty. So going into the dirty side of it, I did compile a timeline of open AI that I want to share with everybody, because I'm hoping that this will show more of a motive for potentially Sam Altman to be a part of something similar to this. I don't want to say come out and directly say anything, just in case he sues me. But in December of 2015, he founded OpenAI with Elon Musk and several other partners. Okay, so Elon stepped down from OpenAI due to a conflict of interest with Tesla. This was in 2018. In 2019, he transitioned it from a nonprofit to a capped profit organization. They were getting ready to get about $1 billion in funds for doing that transition. So there we go. So we've developed that Sam Altman has a money motive, away from the original direction of the company, which was supposed to be a nonprofit. So then in 2020, ChatGPT-3 was launched. 2022, ChatGPT was launched, and in 2023, GPT-4 was launched. So he's progressing this business through, and he's making strides. So that's up until 2023. So what's happened since 2024 is this key year, because this is the year that Suchir was killed. So in November 18th of 2024, which is before Suchir was killed, Sam Altman was appointed to the newly elected San Francisco mayor, David Lurie, to transition San Francisco into a smart city. Now, I couldn't find a dollar amount on what that would be worth to Sam Altman, but I will guarantee you it's in the billions. So this was several days before Suchir was dead. And there's already money on the table for Sam Altman. And then in December of 2024, OpenAI publicly outlined its plans to transition to a complete for-profit company, by way to the Delaware Public Benefit Corporation, to secure as much funding as they are allowed to get. So they basically were they're working towards being a publicly traded company. So they were taking a step in that direction. So this was just less than a month after Suchir was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have February 29th. Elon Musk sues OpenAI for violating the original nonprofit mission. And that was filed in the San Francisco Superior Court. But then something happened, and Elon had it moved to the federal court, claiming that there were antitrust and securities violations. So I think Elon realized that the San Francisco Superior Court was gonna no matter what was gonna back Sam Altman. So he moved it to the federal court where he could get a fair shake. These things are just compiling up, and then January of this year, Trump announces the Stargate project, which was going to boost OpenAI to $500 billion with other partners. So there's a massive amount of money at stake. We're probably looking at close to $1 trillion when it's all said and done. And that would make OpenAI the most powerful company in the world. And as we know now, they're in competition with the China OpenAI system. So there's the competition level. So Sam Altman has to move fast because he knows China's on his tail developing the same technology. So that's why you've seen all these business deals happen rapidly. To me, this shows that if Suchir blows the whistle and he gets in front of Congress or he gets in front of federal agents and tells his story, and then an investigation happens into OpenAI, that these events after Suchir's death don't happen, because no one's going to go into business with the guy who's under investigation for the murder of one of his workers. So I think there's a clear motive here. There's more, just like I was telling Poornima before we went on, there's more of a motive for Sam Altman to kill Suchir than there was for Suchir to kill himself. Suchir didn't have a breakup. There was no like nasty firing of him at work. He voluntarily quit. He couldn't deal with the ethics of OpenAI anymore. And so this Suchir was strategically playing his moves out very, very carefully. And someone who's in the suicidal realm of mindset is not going to think that way. They're going to think irrationally all the time. But we're not seeing that behavior. We're not seeing the behavior in the elevator video. He looks very, very calm. He looks tired from a camping trip, just like that's how I would look coming back from a camping trip. Like I just want to go take a shower and lay down in my bed. So I think this case deserves a reignition. It deserves opening. It deserves a federal view of it. It deserves oversight from Congress. I think this deserves the full shebang. And so I've contacted so many people about this case. I've contacted Newsmax, Fox News, CNN, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Collins, the FBI, Fox 5, Elon Musk, and Ro Khanna, and we get very little response back from anybody. And that's been the problem. And I know, Poornima, who have you reached out to?
When I was in Tucker Carlson interview, Tucker called Ro Khanna and Ro responded. That's the only response we've got so far. And even that wasn't complete. They just said we've submitted to Department of Justice. If they don't hear, we can't do anything. It's just eyewash. Nothing really happened there.
Right. So you've been on, like, you were on Tucker Carlson. Like that's a big deal. He has a massive following.
Yes.
You were highlighted on Candace Owens' show. That has a massive following.
Absolutely.
You've been on several international media outlets. Your story's been featured in several tech publications.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the attention of a lot of the media people that I consider would matter. But the problem we're running into is we're not getting the attention of the authorities. And we're not getting the attention of the major news media outlets.
Why?
CNN has refused to even acknowledge that this has even happened. And you would think that
Why
would
is
be
that?
something that they would want to cover.
Why? Why they don't want to cover? Is this the bias?
I think it's very politically based. It's just like when Ro Khanna posted on X that he was going to use every resource he had available to him to help you out, and then he did nothing.
Mhm.
And
We were on PBD podcast too. PBD, Peter Bait David.
yes,
We were on that too. They helped. They helped us to reach Kash Patel. They got a complaint from me. They forwarded the complaint to Kash Patel.
that's good. That's he carries some weight. He's a very good podcaster. He has a very big following as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'll guarantee you, Kash Patel has heard probably plenty about this case. Now, it would just be nice if we could get like a response, like, "Hey, we've received all this information, and we're gonna do this, this, and this." But we haven't heard that, and
No,
maybe it's because of my theory is maybe it's because of the magnitude of the people involved. Sam Altman is a very probably a top 5 major player in the United States. San Francisco's mayor, David Lurie, he comes from the Levi Strauss family. That is a very wealthy family. You're
I know.
looking at California politicians that have a major influence in our government. So there's a lot of more complicated aspects of this case than just solving a crime. And there's the political avenue of it is what's in our way.
The doctor who did his autopsy, she's also from a very powerful, wealthy family. Her mother-in-law
I did
works.
not know that, and I may have to dig into her now.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
So that is something I'm going to look into next.
Her
I did
mother-in-law.
try. So I did try to follow a lot of money trails when it comes to San Francisco, and the money moves around so much it's kind of hard to track it down, and it goes from person to person to person to person to person and back around in a circle. Um, but I just find it very interesting that David Lurie utilizes Sam Altman to basically like, here you go. You want to turn my city into a smart city. You have all the resources available at your disposal and the money of taxpayer money of San Francisco to do it. And I think that speaks volumes. I think that there's a lot for Sam Altman to lose in order to
Mhm.
just allow this Suchir to just openly go in front of all these committees and accuse Sam Altman.
Right.
Now, there also was I found corruption in the medical examiner's office, which you brought to my attention. And with that, the young lady that they fired because she was going to report a malpractice situation in the medical
Right.
examiner's office.
Right.
I reached out to her lawyer too, asking if he would talk to her to find out if there was any information she could provide to this case, and I never heard back from them. So I don't know, when you're dealing with San Francisco and this young lady, and I'm not going to mention her name, but she's going through litigation right now against the medical examiner's office in San Francisco, where they're notorious for destroying evidence and covering things up, which is what happened in that case. They destroyed a bunch of evidence because they were going to get inspected. And so I'm still waiting to see what the disposition of that case is, which I'm guessing they're going to settle out of court with her, I would imagine. So we do have, Poornima, you wanted me to share the letter for the. Go ahead and explain the letter that you want to share, and I'm going to attach it to this podcast.
The letter that we wrote to FBI clearly calls out why it's not a suicide. It calls out all the deficiencies in the so called investigation. It calls out the evidence that claims that point towards homicide. And there is also data point that was given to FBI that tells what's the motive for our son's death. It calls out the events and the journals of what Suchir has shared, as well as the events that led to his death.
Right. And I mean, and that's an important piece of information. Um, but you also talked about your petition, the open letter in support of AB 501, which would
Right,
close the loophole. It
right,
closes the loophole that allows nonprofits to privatize assets that were dedicated to humanitarian purposes, which is basically what Elon Musk is suing Sam Altman for.
right.
So we want to close that loophole. There's a petition online that you can go on and sign that. We need what, 10,000 signatures to get that in front of legislation.
Right.
And
And there's also an effort to curb this, kill this from Sam Altman. So we do need within this week 10,000 signatures. And this matters a lot for Suchi's cause. He lost his life trying to stop the atrocity and the evilness here. He didn't want what would happen without AB 501 is once OpenAI convert to profit, then only few people will be in control of AI technology. That means through AI, they can literally control the world and humanity. If it's for profit,
correct.
in that case, it belongs to humanity. It belongs to everyone. There won't be any control. There can be a reasonable board of supervisors, a reasonable board that monitors the AI safety, AI ethics, and ensures it's on the right track. That is the reason we don't want it to be profit. That's why we want to stop it.
I agree with you. I think this is a very important thing, and I urge everybody to go out and sign this. I have my own AI concerns, which is very much along the lines of what Poornima just mapped out. I don't think it's healthy for us to allow AI to privatize and have the influence of
Right.
the financiers of of the AI systems. I've already noticed just in when I was writing my last book, I started to use Microsoft Copilot, and then I realized that they were giving me conflicting information, and it was information to sway me away from facts that I knew were facts uh, that would uh, uh, that would make us Barack Obama look bad. So it was very biased, and it was sneaky about it. But I think that's what happens when you have uh, the money aspect of it involved. Then the people who who are donating this money, or the people that are paying for these systems, they want their influence in it. They say, "Here's the agenda. You want my money? Put the agenda in there." And I think that's wrong. If we're gonna make this system about the future, then that system has to be neutral and unopinionated.
Exactly.
So I think having it as a 100% nonprofit is the right way to go.
Exactly.
And I've also noticed that we do not have enough legal guardrails in place for an open AI system. Our congressional leaders have done almost absolutely nothing to rein in AI. I agree. I don't completely hate AI. It's very useful for people like me to research.
Yeah,
However, it has to be a neutral system, and we
exactly.
don't have guardrails. We don't have enough laws put in place to keep AI inside of a boundary. So I urge everybody to sign the petition, and I'm going to attach it in the comment section with the link to where all you got to do is click on it, and it'll take you right there, and you just got to sign the petition. We need 10,000 signatures to get the attention of legislators, and it's an important thing. Um, we're going to keep fighting on this on Suchir's case, Poornima. I think this is a big news, and I don't think they're going to be able to just ignore it. The
Exactly.
second bullet changes everything,
Right.
and I want to say that you are the most resilient. mother I think I've ever come across. You have not stopped this fight since it happened, and all the roadblocks and all of the deterrent that you've received, and the covering up of things, you have stayed at it and you've pushed forward, and now you're finding more information, and that's a testament to you, and it's a reflection also as to the type of person that I believe that Suchir was, that he was a resilient, intelligent
Yes.
person that cared about humanity,
Yes.
and his actions showed that. And I am very, very I'm very grateful that I've been able to assist in any way that I can, and hopefully we can get the conclusion that is the absolute truth at the end of this. And I think that's what this is all about: the truth, the final truth.
Thank you.
So, Poornima, if you have anything else you want to add before we conclude the show, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
We can get justice only with the public support, like it happened in George Floyd's case, right? We can think of many different cases like this where authorities fail to support the cause. Only public can bring justice to us. We need everyone's support to fight for justice for young visionary Suchir, whose life was lost just for expressing his opinion. He didn't say anything negative about them.
I agree 100%. So, everybody in the public, uh, Poornima is very active on X. So, go find her on X and keep up with the new revelations that she comes up with, and join the fight. This is an important subject. If we allow this to happen, it's going to continue to happen, and it might be your child next that they cover up over the truth. So we want to make sure that we hold people accountable. Accountability is huge, and I don't believe that we got the right answers from the powers that be. And it's time to get the right answers and make sure that these people know that the American people are not going to tolerate a cold-hearted effort to cover up a crime because of the major power brokers are involved. That time in America's past, and we're done with it.
I know.
So thank you for coming on, Poornima. And I know we talk all the time, so I'm sure I'll be talking to you this week. And once I get all the editing done, I'm going to shoot this out everywhere, and you'll get the first copy, and then you can share it wherever you want.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming on. And I continue to throw positive energy towards your family, and in hopes that we come up with a conclusion to Suchir's death.
Thank you.
All right. See you later, everybody.